Trade tensions with China. Investors are waiting on this big meeting between the U.S. and China delegations next week. The trade uncertainty, a key issue for business leaders since the tariffs went into effect. Joining me right now is the CEO of Dow, Jim Fitterling, to talk more about that and the global story in general. Great to see you, Jim.
Good morning,
Thanks
Maria.
very much for joining us. So we're hearing a debate about what's going on in the global economy right now. Within China, there was really a credit situation. Can you tell us what you see was being talked about as a slowdown in China?
I think what happened when China tightened credit, especially in the secondary market last year, that had an impact, obviously, on the individual consumer who would buy an automobile, might buy a new property. And that might have had some knock-on effect into durable goods because you don't buy a new property, you don't buy durable goods. It also had a little bit of an impact on small and medium-sized enterprises. But then there were some quick changes made on policy to address VAT and income tax policies in China, and I think those are going to kick in this year. So China has announced 6% growth targets for this year, which second largest economy in the world, 6% growth, I think is a pretty healthy growth rate for the year.
Well, it certainly sounds like it.
And the consumers in general around the world are doing relatively well right now. Businesses are reporting decent results. So I think if we don't policy our way into a problem, I think we've got a pretty good outlook.
How's your business going? Tell us about plastics as well as chemicals.
Well, I run the material science division of Dow DuPont, which will spin out from Dow DuPont on April 1st, and it'll be the new Dow. We have 6 businesses focused on 3 market verticals, so we create solutions for plastics for packaging, for infrastructure, and for consumer goods companies like P&G, Unilever, other brand owners. We help them make products. And business has been good. We've had a lot of investments over the last several years, and they've been coming to fruition. We had a very strong year in 2018 where we brought on all of our additional capacity in the U.S. Gulf Coast and in Saudi Arabia. And so now as we move forward, we're going to continue to build out that capacity to keep growth with those industries. About 70% of what we sell goes into a finished consumer good. So consumer demand really drives our business.
How will investors and customers see the company differently after the spin out? Tell us what changes specifically after April.
The biggest change, we'll be about a $50 billion company as we spin out, focused on 6 business units. The old Dow was a $50 billion company focused on 13 business units, including ag and specialty products. So we'll be more focused. We'll be able to go deeper into those businesses. We'll be able to keep up with the growth rate. We'll be able to be the market leader in many of those franchises. We're the #1 or #2 position in the world. And I think the investors are looking for that focus and for that leadership and for us to continue, obviously, the innovation that we need to do to grow with those customers and the geographic growth that Dow is known for around the world.
Given the importance of plastics and that end result of the goods being sold to consumers, what is your outlook for the consumer environment right now? How's the retail sector doing?
Retail sales, consumer sales have been good. All the reports that we've got back are good. U.S. consumer is good. China consumer is good. I think there were some concerns expressed when auto sales dropped, but as I mentioned, I think that was more due to credit policy than anything. And so policies can change that. Those things can come back around.
How are you dealing with this movement against plastic? I know you've got the Alliance to End Plastic Waste, made up of approximately 30 major global companies. How are you dealing with that in terms of the issues around plastic and garbage in the oceans?
Well, this issue has really catalyzed a response in the public. It's also catalyzed a response from the industry and the entire value chain. So last week we announced a $1.5 billion campaign called the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. It is right now made up of more than 30 companies, brand owners, chemical industry companies, plastics companies, converters who make packaging, retailers, and also waste management companies. And we're looking at full circular economy solutions. And so the waste issue has to be tackled. We get that. It's not acceptable to have a sustainable product like plastics and lose that sustainability when it becomes waste in the environment. So our mission is very clear. We're going to stop the plastic waste going into the environment. We've got to clean up what's there. But more importantly, we've got to create the circular economy. These materials can be recycled and upscaled into products. So there are brand owners out there today that are making fully recycled materials. There are new lines of business. There are also social value chains that have to be created, and that's what the industry is committed to do.
So you can do that even while conducting your business in terms of the end result for good in plastic.
We can. It isn't a new thing to the plastics industry to tackle this. Back in the 80s, in the early days of recycle, the industry got together and really brought to the table what has become ubiquitous now, the blue recycle bin that you would see at most venues around the United States. So that was really an industry-led initiative. This is an entire value chain initiative. And what we have to do is we have to bring solutions to the table. This has to be done at the community level. The focus early on will be on cities and rivers. There are about 10 rivers around the world, mostly Southeast Asia, India, China, where most of this waste gets into the ocean. If we can stem that tide, clean up the ocean, create these circular economies, we can help get to a different level of sustainability in plastics.
Good for you. Thanks for doing that.
Thank you.
Jim, good to have you on the program.
Nice to see you.
Thanks so much, and we'll be watching the spin out in April. Best wishes.